Hello again. Are we focusing on technology at the expense of the people who power it? What are some of the tools and the takeaways to evolve and develop finance talent? And where does your organization fit on the path from data gatherer to business partner? That and more is coming up in the Go Beyond Disruption podcast. Welcome to the Go Beyond Disruption podcast. It's brought to you by the Association of International Certified Professional Accountants, which is the unified voice of AICPA and CIMA. Every week, we share insights from inside the accounting and finance profession that help you stay ahead of the curve, whatever business you're in. From London, I'm Kyle Hannon. This week, it's all about how to develop the finance talent in your organization by putting people first. You'll be hearing from our Director of Management Accounting and a widely experienced CFO liaison to boot, Barry Payne. This is an edited audio version of his video webinar, which was part of our Engage 2020 Interactive and Solution sessions. And they were run in June, just last month, as part of the lead up to this year's Engage 2020 virtual conference. And that runs in July, later this month, from the 20th to the 24th. It's the premier event for the finance and accounting profession, and you can join from anywhere in the world. You can register at AICPAengage.com, and again, that starts on Monday, July 20th. Lots of exciting and crucial knowledge coming up at the end of this month, but for this episode, we'll go back to last month, to June, with this webinar from Barry Payne. Here, he starts with the question, are we focusing on technology at the expense of the people who power it? And then he answers it with tools and takeaways to evolve and develop your finance talent. Here's Barry.
Thank you so much for investing your time on this crucial and critical topic. No more crucial than today. I don't know about you, but the last couple of weeks feel like a couple of years. And I think it's only right that we maybe just think and reflect on perhaps what we've learned over the last couple of months with regard to how we have helped create leadership and supported our businesses to survive and become a bit more resilient. And perhaps what we are starting to learn about the skill sets and the emerging competencies that we feel are going to be important as we drive our businesses forward. So this is what we're going to talk about today. We're going to draw from some global research. I'm lucky to have a hard copy of this in front of me today. That will provide us with some context around the evolution of accounting and finance. I'm going to reference this report that was only produced 4 months ago around the human aspect of finance transformation. We are, as I said, going to just spend a bit of time addressing, the current crisis and how we as a community have performed. And then finally, I want to talk practical stuff with you and give you something that you can take away to use to help you think around how you evolve your approach to finance talent and how you develop skills and capabilities moving forward. So let's first of all start off with this. And this was a very big report that AICPA and CIMA produced. It was around about 18 months ago. And I think about over 5,000 individuals responded to this survey, around about 2,000 companies. Very, very rich and very broad data. But the big takeaway that I took from this report was over half of finance leaders said that the competencies of their teams will change significantly over the next 3 years. And I would argue that even over the last 3 months, we've had significant change as well. The way I liken the roles that we used to have is, I don't know about you, but I like a bit of aviation. Most of us are too young to remember this, but you've got a pilot, you've got a co-pilot, and you've got this table in the back called a navigator. And I used to think of us as a finance and accounting community like that person in the navigator position. And I liken it to, understanding the basic metrics of a company, the basic metrics of flight around fuel, around altitude, around speed, and handing that data pretty much verbatim to the pilot and the co-pilot to successfully fly the plane from A to B, or indeed, in our context, successfully navigate our organizations from A to B. But now things look like this. And it's been a while since I've actually been on one of these, unfortunately, as we all have. And the immediate difference is there's no navigator anymore. There's only 2 seats, and there are heads-up displays. There's data visualization. It's all about having data at our fingertips to make decisions, all about heads-up displays, allowing us to anticipate turbulence or rough air, to understand how we can get from A to B safely, a comfortable, optimal ride for passengers. And people say to me, well, where's the accountant and finance professional gone? And I say they actually haven't gone anywhere. They're actually in the co-pilot seat. And really, when I speak to companies and CFOs, kind of that's the role that a lot of companies are taking right now, and a lot of roles that people are aspiring to within finance. But all over this cockpit, you see technology. And we know that, whatever organization that you're working for, you have been through some form of digital transformation. The quarter one, or at least the quarter one calendar year reports came out from listed companies about a month ago. And, I take a read of those because I'm quite interested in them. And it was remarkable what the Microsoft CEO said in their Q3 fiscal reports, that basically they have gone through 2 years worth of digital transformation in 2 months. That's absolutely startling. And no doubt you in your accounting and finance shops are deploying some of these technologies, whether it's cloud, visualization, or advanced analytics. If we look at an adoption curve, for example, I would suspect a number of you have deployed cloud technologies and applications, which is an absolute godsend at the moment, especially if you're grappling with things like virtual closes. I suspect a number of you are looking into the world of advanced analytics and visualization and how that can help you tell a story. And also the wonderful world of RPA, process automation, to be able to save time that you can redeploy on higher value tasks. The deployment and the implementation of technological solutions is a wonderful opportunity for us as a community to drive greater value. And we do need to be very comfortable from a skills perspective to work side by side with technology. But the use of things like that, the use of data analytics, the use of automation, the use of cloud-based structures, gets us to think about the evolving shape and operating model of our finance organization. So if technology and the use of technology is something that we need to ensure that we're highly skilled in being able to use and work side by side with, it's also allowing us to reshape the value that we provide our organizations. That level 4, maybe 10 years ago, was far wider. That's because we just didn't have the systems and the capability to be able to, effectively deal with transactional work, paying invoices or raising invoices or order to cash. Now, through various different shapes or forms, we can actually really, really do something with that, where we can save a lot of time and a lot of effort. I was speaking to the CAO of a Fortune 500 company a couple of days ago. And in the last 12 months, I think they've saved over 12,000 hours of time in developing basic automation processes for basic reporting structures. And they've been able to redeploy that time. They haven't lost it, but they've been able to redeploy that time to shore up their technical specialisms and expertise and drive through the culture of business partnership. And that's the way that we're seeing things, working side by side with technology, ensuring that we continue to have our technical mastery, but really getting involved and embedded in the business. We all start the journey where we're simply assembling data. And a lot of us are still in that situation, which is okay. But where we really want to get to is the ability to assemble the data quickly to create insight. And actually to think about how we present that insight to guide and advise and influence decision making. Ultimately, to be that co-pilot, we then need to be in a situation where our value is such that we are brought to the table to be able to execute on some of those decisions and mitigate some of those risks. And we have a great opportunity with the deployment of tech and automation. But what that also means is that we need to pay attention to the types of skill sets that often maybe don't come natural, the skill sets of what we call the human side, how we're able to work side by side with the business visualize data, help guide decisions. Now, I have a lot of fun with finance leaders and organizations I meet, and I kind of get them to honestly plot where they think their accounting and finance organization is. And I kind of would like to do the same with the audience. Where do you think your accounting and finance team are? Are you, at the moment, assembling information? Are you gravitating more to providing the analysis, advising and providing insights, or indeed influencing and impacting the execution of decisions? So reflect on that question, where you feel you fit in. And I talked about the human dimension, and we produced this report only, I would say, 4 or 5 months ago with KPMG, called Finance Transformation, the Human Perspective. We wanted to check out with KPMG what we thought was that the lion's share of finance transformation is wrapped up in obviously deploying technology and the consulting that goes with it, but often the actual human aspect, or the ability to help our folks in our teams be comfortable with executing transformation, is often neglected. And we wanted to kind of review that and reflect on some of the skill sets that we really needed to work on to make our transformation successful. And these were some of the high level findings here. So interestingly enough, 17% of respondents in this report said it was either digital infrastructure, digital implementation, people skills, or leadership skills. And digital infrastructure is all about things like systems development and systems integration. Digital implementation is developing more data analytic and visualization skills and things like that. And people and leadership skills is relatively obvious. For those of you that are totaling the 17% multiplied by 4, you know that that's not 100%. In fact, 20% of respondents also quoted technical accounting and finance skills. And that's not on the chart. But let's please not overlook that in terms of evolving our finance talent. We absolutely need to work very hard on the mastery of our technical accounting and finance acumen, and ensure that we pay attention to that moving forward in terms of best practices, pronouncements, and everything like that. No better time now to make sure that we get those basics right. But really surprising, you put all of the results of this report together, only, or just less than, 3% of respondents actually stated that their finance function has the skills that it needs. So there is a gap. And also, there's a lot of reflection going on. You know, I mentioned at the beginning the current crisis and what you've had to go through in order to help your businesses. But you are really that second line. The first line is the people in the health industry. The second line is us as a profession, to be able to allow our businesses to recover and stabilize and hope to thrive again. These are headlines from some of the virtual roundtables that we conducted with CFOs and finance leaders. And, you know, some of the words, for example, about performing pivots, resilience and speed of transformation, supply chains, health and safety, remote working, cash and liquidity. You know, all things, no doubt, that are very, very front of mind and very front of mind for your organizations. But as we kind of think about what is next in terms of stabilizing our organizations, and also thinking through various different business models and various different pivots that we actually may want to sustain and make strategic, then over, especially the last month, I've had some very deep conversations with a range of finance leaders about skills and capability, finance acumen within the broader business, but also accounting and finance acumen within teams. I'm sure a number of you know this framework from McKinsey. We held a webcast about 3 weeks ago with Oracle and McKinsey with Ash Noah on workforce optimization. And, you know, I do like a very clear structure in this, you know, era of lack of clarity. And I hope that you've all resolved. I hope that you've all put in place measures to ensure resiliency. And I would suspect a number of you are in the return phase. And it's this return phase that really I've had a conversation with CFOs and finance leaders on, and the type of skills and capabilities that have either been amplified and shown in the last 2 or 3 months, or areas that they feel that as they stabilize their business, they might want to work on more as far as talent's concerned. Now, I'll share with you this quote. And this quote was from our virtual roundtable that we held not long ago in the Asia Pacific region. And I think that it's quite powerful and very accurate, and I hope that you agree. And I'll just let you read it. But I think the most important takeaway that I get is that this is actually a really opportune time to upskill and to prepare for the new emerging business environment. How we can magnify our already important leadership position. And that's what I'd like to focus on now. And if I was to give you the top 5 skill sets that I'm seeing that the finance leaders that I'm talking to value the most at the moment, I'm sure that these are up for tremendous debate. So the first one is agility and pace. Agility in the sense of the ways that we're working. Agility in the sense of ultimately having a breadth of skill set so we can deploy people in various different shapes or forms. You know, the way that we're working, the way that we're getting together through Zoom and Microsoft Teams, the agile focus on working means that, you know, a number of organizations that I work with have said, okay, we need to create a breadth and agility of experience to be able to deploy people in different areas at pace. And that has been a prevailing theme across all of the discussions I've had. Secondly, and very obviously, is working side by side with technology. So making sure that the individuals in our teams, you know, first of all, have that digital mindset and feel comfortable working with technology. And in certain areas, have a deep dive in the applications that we need to implement for our businesses and get value out of. Data visualization and storytelling, absolutely key. With the agility and pace that we need to demonstrate, the ability to be able to take vast amount of data, often from quite complex technical solutions, and create a story to tell business leaders and to guide and execute decisions is absolutely key. And that's come out again through the conversations that I've had and the articles I've read. But the other area, and this is incredibly important, it's always been important as far as I'm concerned, is critical thinking and problem solving. You know, we as a group of professional accountants bring that healthy skepticism, that professional judgment, that ethical standpoint. Yeah, critical thinking is the ability just to be brave and take a stance and to say, what would happen if this happened? What's the plan B? How do we mitigate risk? What happens if we do things a slightly different way? And just ask the objective questions to enable your business to make really good quality decisions. And finally, scenario planning and enterprise risk. Naturally, over the last 2 to 3 months, organizations have been trying to search for answers, and they've been relying on us as a community to do so, looking at risk far more holistically, looking at planning and reforecasting in different ways. And that's been a prevailing skill as well. And I would suggest that all 5 of these are here to stay. Most of them were here before, but they've been amplified over the past 2 to 3 months. There is actually a skill set that is missing from here. I'll talk to you about that in a minute, but I just want to kind of leave the audience guessing as to what that possibly could be. But you think of the inversion of the required skill set. Before it was about operational thinking, transactional expertise, and task management that took the lion's share of our time. But now it's around, well, how can we streamline and optimize those processes and knowledge? and go into more deep analytical strategic thinking, some of those interpersonal skills and advanced business knowledge, which pretty much is backed up by what you're saying and what I discussed in the slide before. And the ability to help our teams thrive and be comfortable in a digital world. And, you know, for me, there are three aspects to that. First, there's that basic digital literacy. And I would suggest over the last 2 to 3 months, we've had a crash course in this. You know, we're all very comfortable on Zoom these days and working in remote teams, but also technology know-how, as I mentioned, around ensuring that we have individuals that are block captains and super users that we can rely on for a deeper dive in terms of certain technologies. And ultimately, and the most successful thing, is to try and cultivate that mindset of being able to deal with complexity, being able to work in an agile way, and to be a lifelong learner. And lifelong learning is the skill that I missed out. I think pretty much everyone that I've spoken to recently has had that mindset amplified for them in terms of keeping agile and empowering themselves or their organizations to think about how they can learn. The campers and the climbers, you might wonder. This is something that I will pose to you. I was conducting a panel of CFOs at a CFO conference in February in Florida. And we were talking about talent development. And you know, when you get a question from the audience or someone that you know, and it really takes your breath away because it's such a great question. Well, that's what happened to us. And the CFO asked the panel, "You've been talking about your high potentials and your climbers. I can understand that, but how do we develop our campus?" And when we're looking at all of this, you know, rate of rapid transformation and uncertainty, and we look at the people in our workforce that have been highly tenured and are comfortable and really, really fantastic doing their roles, you know, how do we create an environment to make them safe, to make them comfortable and confident to make a switch? Because I'm sure that you've got individuals in your organization that you're thinking about right now in order to do that. And for me, it's cultivating within your organizations a lifelong learning mindset, the ability to be able to recognize the ability to learn and unlearn what you've been able to been exposed to in the past and relearn certain concepts. And that brings me to the practical part of my presentation today. I'd like to introduce to you the CGMA Competency Framework, which is a tool that you can use to be able to make talent and skill and capability decisions. It's an open source document. I believe it's available as a resource for you via this platform. And it's really designed for you to be able to make decisions and to benchmark development and performance. And this is a direct result of the research that we did that I talked to you about at the beginning, called Reinventing Finance for a Digital World. We cascaded all of the findings into a competency framework that you can use, which broadly is covering 5 areas wrapped around a pervasive ethics, integrity, and professionalism wrapper. So on the one hand, you may well have a situation where you'd like to develop your technical mastery, your business skills, your people skills, and your leadership skills, all within the lens of working side by side with technology and your digital skills. And as I go through this competency framework, because I want to just give you some sort of practical ways in the way you can use this to make some decisions around evolving your approach to talent. I would invite you to take these key questions away. And by all means, you can email me and I'll give you my address at the end and we can have a conversation. But these are key questions that I offer you. It's, how has the current crisis changed your thinking on how you develop your people? What critical competencies do you require to meet your business priorities now and in the future? And then how do you align roles and ways of working to those critical competencies? And importantly, how do you validate your thinking with your business colleagues in terms of the perception and the service that they're getting from you? how can the CGMA Competency Framework help you in this regard? So I just want to give you a bit of a cook's tour in how the CGMA Competency Framework works. And as I said, it's split into 5 skill set areas: technical, business, people, leadership, and digital. And this is the front page of each of those skill set buckets. It looks exactly the same. So you've got a range of competencies and skill sets that are, for example, foundational, right up to expert in different domains, some of which would be important to you in your roles that you can focus on the left-hand side there. And you basically rinse and repeat for the other competencies as well. This, for example, is business skills. You know, I'm working with a lot of organizations at the moment around business relations and business models and things like that. Process management is another hot topic, especially getting people to think very deeply about parameters and processes, especially if they're automating. The people skills, collaboration and partnering, and leadership skills, change management, driving performance, and team building, each of which has a subset of skills at the foundational, intermediate, advanced, or expert level. And then finally, digital skills as well. So looking at how we kind of create that mindset and that deeper appreciation of working side by side with technology. You've got analytics, visualization there, content creation, and also information and digital literacy. So I want to provide you with some examples of how you can use this framework. And I'd like to talk about how you could use it to better recruit, how you can use it to better manage performance, and finally, how you can have better learning conversations and really maximize the impact of the learning that you're providing folks. So with regard to recruitment, having a transparent and objective framework to make decisions on recruitment will ultimately help you better identify and attract future talent and improve the identification of competencies for job roles. This is a living, breathing, working document, and no doubt your specifications for skill sets and job roles are going to change over time. So this allows you to make some clear decisions, but also it allows you to have a bit of fun at interviews, positive fun at interviews, because you're able to craft interview questions and scenarios around some of these skill sets to challenge applicants. So hopefully getting some really good real feedback from candidates as they would, perform in your organization. Secondly, performance management. Having clearer expectations of competencies required. And especially in this day and age where you're looking to perhaps develop a more agile way of working and an agile way that you can deploy people, perhaps it's improving the matching of right talent with areas of business need. So you can easily find out which skills and competencies people have in a very objective way and move them around project teams or burning platforms, which ultimately is going to help with improved workforce and succession planning. But ultimately, sitting down, it will also improve performance review discussions, not just once a year, not just twice a year, but, companies that have implemented something like this are really having those discussions as part of their DNA, but referring to this consistent model. And then finally, learning and development, something that I'm really passionate about. We've discussed many different, perhaps emerging skill sets today, different ways of working. But how do you make sense of it all? And how do you kind of optimize, for example, your training and development spend? Well, this is one of the things that you can do with this framework, is it will allow you to identify skill gaps in a better way. It will certainly allow you to have a more objective conversation around specific learning and development needs. And, in the spirit of fostering a lifelong learning mindset, it will enable your individuals to own their own development journey and come to you with specific ideas on areas that they want to focus on. And as I said, because it's set out in an objective way, I think it allows organizations to make more objective decisions around their training spend and their training investment and the value that they're getting from it. So I would certainly invite you to kind of reflect on how maybe you could use this framework in one or two ways, depending on your bandwidth and depending on the opportunities that you're seeing within your organization. And I would very much be open to having a conversation with you about how this works in other companies. So I'd like to pose this simple question to you. Do you have a competency framework, or have you been thinking about it, or is it just not on the radar? So I'll give you folks a few seconds. I would certainly invite individuals to get in touch with me to tell me what works for them if they have a competency framework. I'm always looking for best practice. And definitely, out of that best practice, those that are thinking about it or not on the radar, have a chat with me. I mean, it does require a certain amount of investment, but the way that I work with companies is to, first of all, kind of break it down into chunks and priorities. I'm working with a couple of companies at the moment where we're not deploying a whole competency framework, but we're kind of identifying those 5 priority skill sets that I had a stab at identifying earlier, but in the context of your business. And then we're doing a piece of work to align parts of the competency framework to those skill needs, almost to create a toolkit of skills that maybe are universal across your accounting and finance organization that are important to you right now as you make pivots, as you stabilize, as you recover, as you transform, whatever the position of your organization is, and then work towards a more detailed framework at a later stage. This is just an example of 2 or 3 skill areas in the competency framework. This one is around process management. This is quite a hot one at the moment. As you can see, there are several skill areas in the foundational right through to the expert. We do have this resource available to you, but I just wanted to give you the next level down in terms of the structure. This is an example of data analytics there. And finally, collaboration and partnering as well. So that's just to give you a flavor of the way that it works. We at the association, as you would expect, are helping multiple organizations with solutions around optimizing their learning and development. The CGMA Finance Leadership Program is one of those, which is a very strategic and sustainable way to grow business partners within your organization, working with a whole host of different companies in the US and beyond. And then finally, an amazing library of development, bite-sized learning and certifications from automation and technology with RPA fundamentals, right through to managing transformation, honing your executive finance business partnering skills. So plenty there to support you in the background as well. So just to finally wrap up here, these are key questions for you to take away. So how has the current crisis changed your thinking on how you develop your people? Maybe it's too early. I understand and recognize that, but it's just a question in the back of your mind. And what critical competencies do you require to meet your business priorities now and in the future? And then how do you then work towards aligning roles and ways of working to those critical competencies, but also get feedback from the business to validate your understanding what's important to them? I would love the opportunity to have a broader conversation. I'm really passionate about this subject. Barry.Payne at AICPA-CIMA.com. And if I can just say again, right back from what I said at the start, thank you so much for taking the time to invest in this important topic. And ultimately, we all have a role in making people grow and be successful.
That was Barry Payne, the Director of External Relations for Management Accounting at the Association of International Certified Professional Accountants. It was an edited audio version of his video webinar, which was part of the lead up to this year's Engage 2020 virtual conference that will run at the end of July 20th to the 24th, the premier event for the finance and accounting profession. You can join from anywhere in the world. Register at AICPAengage.com. And again, that starts July 20th. For more on the topic, have a look at this episode's show notes, which will have links to all the resources that Barry mentioned. To view them, just click on this episode's info icon in the podcast app on your smartphone or your tablet, or you can use your computer's web browser and you'll find everything right there. If you've enjoyed the episode, go and tell someone about it. Why not share it on social media, share it with your colleagues, your professional networks, and talking of sharing, why not share with us what you'd like to hear more of? Tell us via email. You can use the feedback link in those show notes. From the AICPA and CIMA office here in London, I'm Kyle Hannon. We'll be back soon with more conversations that help you in your profession to go beyond disruption. Till next time, keep listening and keep safe. Goodbye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Beyond Disruption, brought to you by the Association of International Certified Professional Accountants. Learn more about today's topic at AICPA-CIMA.com/disruption. This podcast is designed to provide illustrative information with respect to the subject matter covered and does not represent an official opinion or position of the Association of International Certified Professional Accountants or any of its subsidiaries or affiliates. It is provided with the understanding that the association, its affiliates, and subsidiaries are not engaged in rendering legal, accounting, or other professional services. If such advice or expert assistance is required, the services of a competent professional person should be sought. The association, its subsidiaries, and affiliates make no representations, warranties, or guarantees as to and assume no responsibility for the content or application of the material contained herein and expressly disclaim all liability for such damages arising out of the use of, reference to, or reliance on such material.